Uh, all right. Yeah, 60 years, it just came in by quickly, didn't it, at this point?
Yeah, it's hard to believe. And what's really amazing is that I was there when this album came out, and I'll tell you, for July 20th, 1964, the Beatles were the hottest, they were the most popular. Beatlemania was on fire. It was just, it was burning. It was just everybody was wrapped up and it was enraged. Everybody was nuts about it. We was like, I was possessed. It was like, oh my God, the Beatles, the Beatles, the Beatles, the Beatles, the Beatles. And the radio stations, of course, they kept playing the tracks off of, they were playing a Hard Day's Night album, and then they were playing from the Something New album. And this was all a big buildup to August 12th, 1964, was when the Hard Day's Night movie was released here in the US on August 12th, 1964. So there was just so much excitement, with me and my friends and everything. The Beatles were just so powerful, an amazing force that they had on me and millions of other people my age back in 64. So I'm thrilled that I'm still around to be able to say that. And I'm thrilled that I was there, when it happened. I was in Los Angeles the summer of 64. And I was listening to radio stations KHJ and KRLA. Those were the top AM stations, and they just
Mhm.
Beatles, 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 playing Beatle tracks from A Hard Day's Night and from the Something New album. So I was completely psyched up and excited about this whole thing, getting ready, of course, for the Hard Day's Night US release in August 12th, 1964.
Mhm. So the one thing is that they pre-prepped everyone. They now know what the songs are going to be, which is great. But also, people forget that they didn't have cineplexes like they had. We only had like one movie, and then they have one show, so it would be like a theater more or less. So there wasn't this multiplex where you can see it the week that it came
Right.
out. Chances
Right.
are it was months before after, and the buzz was like, "Oh my God, this movie's great! I can't wait for it to come to my town." So
Oh,
that
oh, yeah. In terms of how they rolled out the release. Now, I saw it in Los Angeles at a drive-in movie theater, which was a whole other situation, because, you're in the car and you've got this speaker, about maybe this, like 3 inches by 4 inches, and it was hanging on the window on
mm,
the driver's side. And, the quality of the speaker was not really that very good. And so there was a crack, of course. You had to have a crack at the top of the window for the speaker to hang on to it. And so when when we went to the drive-in in Los Angeles, it was actually Lakewood Drive-in, and put the speaker on the window, and the movie started. And yeah, we could hear, the soundtrack, of course, but could also hear the screaming that was going on in the other cars. And it was,
uh,
screaming in the distance
uh,
throughout the whole parking area of the drive-in. It was, I mean, what an experience. You kids today, I mean, there's no such thing as a drive-in anymore. I don't think so. So this was part of what was going on in terms of 1964, how you saw a movie. Like you said, you could either go to one singular movie theater if it actually came to your town on the 12th. Like you said, it could have been later, in the month of August,
sure.
or you went to a drive-in movie theater to have this experience. So the world was just so different back then. And of course, it's something that I love and I cherish, that these memories are forever in my heart. They really are. It was a wonderful experience.
So this was the first one that we did where we had like a severe difference of opinion. I'm I'm a 70s baby, so I was buying, the records in the 70s, and something new to me was a lot of fun. The
Uh-huh.
Hard Day's Night soundtrack, the US version, was not fun at all. So I'm thumbs up on something new. Your
Yeah,
take on it is completely different, and
yeah,
we talk about that through the
yeah,
conversation.
right.
In retrospect, I do understand what you're saying, but as a kid, I was like, "Ooh, this is a gold mine." I got a couple,
Yeah, yeah,
a
yeah.
bunch of songs together. Um,
Well, I listened to our discussion earlier today, and let me just say that I made myself very, very clear
yes, you did.
as
Yes,
to
you
how,
did.
what I think about some album. And for those listening now to the preview, or actually to the anniversary, 60 years ago, my God. For those who want to hear what I really think about this album, I encourage you to listen to the discussion that we did when we first did the discussion on something new, and you will hear exactly how I feel about it. I'm not going to say now what I said in the discussion. I'm
Yeah,
going to say it, okay? So
we're gonna have
go
that.
go to the link, and you'll hear exactly what I had to say. And what I have to say, or what I did say, I still feel the same today. But what's also very important to know is that when the album came out, I loved it. I didn't feel the way that I feel about it today, or
Mhm.
what I said in our discussion about it. When would we do the discussion? A couple of years ago, Tom?
Oh, the 2019 maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, 2 or 3
Something.
years ago. Yeah, or more. Um, when it came out, anything Beatles, right? Anything Beatles. It didn't matter the name of the album. It didn't matter.
Mhm.
It's like, oh my God, have to have it. And we
Uh,
loved it. And I loved
Plus,
it.
plus, they
I
were hooking you up like heroin. You had like four. It's July and you have four releases already. You got a movie on its way. I mean, like it's like a Pez dispenser that never ends. You're constantly getting a dose of sugar.
it,
Uh,
it it was so incredible that it didn't matter what they called the album. And Capital, they knew that. I mean, it was so obvious.
uh,
They knew that the buying populace in the United States, that they knew whatever they put out, that it would be a huge success. They knew that. And that's what we did. And I loved it. In 64, I loved something new. But as you know, and anyone who listened to our discussion from a few years ago, um, that's my interpretation uh, later and now is not like it was in 64. But in 64, it was like anything Beatles, anything. Had to have it, and I loved it.
yeah.
But in retrospect, looking at it over the years in comparison to A Hard Day's Night, especially, then and you'll hear
Mhm.
what I have to say about it. And I think you'll agree with me, even though I know you love the album. I think you'll agree with me that the points that I take and what I say are well taken. I think they really are. And for those of you who, again, who want to hear what I have to say about it with the points that are taken, please give it a listen. And I think that some of you will agree with me and some of you will not agree with me, which is fine because that's what it's all about, folks.
Yeah.
It's not about what I think. It's not about what Tom thinks. It's about what you think, what you think about these albums, something new. That's what this is all about. We just happen to have our own opinions. And, because of who I am and what I'm considered to be based upon my experience and my books and everything else in my radio show and my Beatle history, then, some people think, oh, gee, I wonder what Brooke has to say about what Brooke Halpin has to say about this album. And that's, I think one reason why you and I do these discussions, because you know that I bring a certain perspective to the table. And as you know, because I was there
Yep.
and I experienced it then. And that's what this is all about, is then having the ability to discuss it many, many years afterward, with all those years gone in between, and having a different perspective on it now versus when it came out in 1964.
Well, and the correct answer, if everyone has their opinion, the correct answer is that this is a pretty good album, and the Hard Day's Night soundtrack is not as good. That's my opinion. So
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because I love Hard Day's Night. Hard Day's Night is, to
it's the
me, is
opposite.
one of their best. Yeah. So
If you guys have not checked us out, it's the Beatles Come to America, and what we do, or what we did, almost 5 years ago, is that we sat down right before the pandemic, and we went through all the U.S. albums, and we reviewed the songs from those albums. So if you're clocking in here on our reaction of 60 years of something new, this is episode 4 for us that we did together, and the whole thing's done. So it's not like you have to wait, weekly or monthly for updates. It's all just sitting there for you. So, total recommendation if you want to shift around, pick out the albums that you want, or start from the beginning. We get better and better as we go along. That's all I can tell you. So it's important to watch our evolution as we kind of work together, as we kind of really dig into some stuff towards the end. So it's really interesting.
great. Well, so we should let the people go back, and now that they've heard this preview honoring the 60-year anniversary of the release of Something New, now they can go back and listen to what we had to say about it back in 2019.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. For those people who are listening to the Jazz, Blues, and R&B podcast and radio show, I have previous links for this. If this is you're on YouTube, all our shows are already on YouTube. And if you're on the Beatles Come to America, which is what we're basically going to be sending out, the actual show will follow right after this. All that good stuff. All right.
Terrific. So this will be what we're doing right now, is going to happen. People will see this tomorrow, right on the anniversary date of the release of Something New.
Yeah. And the real thing before we end up for the Beatle Guru, the bottom line is you were 5 years old at 60 years old. There's no, or 60 years ago. There's no, like, I've never asked you your age. I'm not going to do it now, but you lived through it. Plus, it just seems like yesterday. It's a really amazing feeling.
I was a lot older than 5 and 6, let me tell you.
All right. All right. It's good to see you again. We'll be talking soon.
Okay, Tom, thanks so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.